Chapter 1423. Dustless was stunned. His eyes were fixed on the portrait of Kusanagi Protector in disbelief, as if they were about to fall out. If it weren't for Kusanagi Shizuka's red eyes, which indicated that she had cried so much that her eyes were red, he would have thought that it was a scam. Ahem, that. I am your brother's friend. He was my best friend when he was alive. Dustless said with a serious expression, and then with a righteous expression, he said, "Who killed Protector? I must avenge him." Boo-hoo. Hearing this, Kusanagi Shizuka burst into tears again and threw herself directly into Dustless's arms. After all, she was a helpless young girl. Hey, Erika was speechless. Looking at Kusanagi Shizuka helplessly, she remembered that her brother had just passed away, so she couldn't continue to attack her. She could only complain in her heart, even if your brother is dead, you can't take advantage of him. Does this guy really know Kusanagi Protector? Looking at Dustless, who was full of indignation, Erika felt that something was wrong. At this moment, Dustless gave her a feeling that he was a smiling tiger. Go in peace. I will take care of your sister in the future. Dustless stared at the portrait for a long time and decided to take care of Kusanagi Shizuka. He couldn't help but ask, how did Protector die? I didn't hear anything before. On the journey to Italy, Kusanagi Protector still carried the Prometheus secret book. Maybe he was targeted by some mysterious people on the return journey. After all, the Prometheus secret book was too precious. When my brother returned to Japan, he was hijacked by terrorists, and then, boo-hoo. Kusanagi Shizuka cried even more sadly. Damn. It turned out to be terrorists. Are you kidding me? Although it was said that a certain country set fire and killed people every day in the Middle East, causing terrorists to sweep across the Eurasian continent, it was really tragic that Kusanagi Protector was hijacked. Ahem, Shizuka, I'm sorry for your loss. The dead can't come back to life. You have to look forward. This is the legacy left by your brother. He participated in a reality show when he was alive and won 10 billion yen as a reward. Dustless handed a bank card to Shizuka Kusanagi and thought to himself, just take it as the room fee. 10 billion. There are so many of them. The grass pheasant essence exclaimed in shock. Don't worry, Hutong is my best friend. I will take care of you from now on. Dustless said with a warm smile on his face. This guy, Erika was speechless. She really couldn't bear to see Dustless continue acting. This guy obviously turned to someone else because he was at his wit's end, but now he was pretending to be so righteous. Shameless. Just as she was about to expose him, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her buttocks, followed by a particularly loud smack. Watch your mouth. After slapping Erika's butt, Dustless said in a voice that only the two of them could hear. You are quite shameless. Erika was lost for words, realizing that it was a mistake to stay in the same room with Dustless. She would be corrupted sooner or later. Humph. With a grunt, Dustless turned his head and comforted Shizuka Kusanagi, who was crying in his arms. I will live here from now on. Dustless secretly decided. Perhaps because she was too tired and sad, after crying for a while, Shizuka Kusanagi fell asleep. He carefully put her on the bed. After covering her with the quilt, Wuchen found a pair of eyes with bad intentions. I am not a thief, don't stare at me like that. Dustless said with a headache. He found that Erika had been observing his every move since just now. Even when he went to the bathroom, she stood guard at the door. It seemed that she was afraid that Dustless would take advantage of the situation and do something bad to Kusanagi Hutong. Your character is very questionable. You should have only met Kusanagi Hutong once. Erika said righteously. You even know this kind of news. You are indeed a well-known genius. Dustless smiled noncommittally. The relationship between the two sides was more than just one meeting. Their relationship was even bad. After all, Dustless robbed Kusanagi Hutang's, Prometheus' secret book and forcibly modified Kusanagi Hutang's memory, leaving him with the impression that he was a robber. So, in order to atone for my crime, I have to personally support Kusanagi Hutang's sister. He should thank me. In the underworld, Kusanagi Hutang can also close his eyes with a smile. The people who killed him are those stupid terrorists. It has nothing to do with me. On the other hand, I adopted his sister and gave her 10 billion yen. What am I if not a living bodhisattva? Dustless said with a serious expression, as if Kusanagi Hutang had to come out and thank him. Sure enough, after being successful, it also means countless troubles. Frowning slightly, Dustless suddenly noticed a few eyes in the dark. Although the concealment was extremely perfect, it was still difficult to escape Dustless's fiery eyes. In a trance, Dustless seemed to see a silver-haired girl with a beautiful figure. Do we need to drive them away? Erica had a headache. In fact, when she first came to Japan with Dustless, she had expected this situation. The only thing she didn't expect was that it would come so quickly. They had just gotten off the plane, and the next second, some magic associations would come to their door. Let them be. Dustless waved his hand decisively. These kinds of people left in batches and came in batches. There was no need to bother with them. Sigh. There will be one more in the future. The slightly melancholy tone came to an abrupt end. Observing Kusanagi Shizuka sleeping soundly in the room through the tiny crack of the door, Dustless could only sigh that the world was unpredictable. Kusanagi Hutang was killed by the terrorists for no reason, and he had to take care of his sister. Chapter 1425. Dustless frowned and looked at the pale girl. He seemed to have thought of something, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. He turned around and ordered them to leave. The health room is a very serious place. Now, all of you get out. Dustless's serious face was quite deterrent, and he also released a trace of his own temperament. These girls who were heckling were like ants on a hot pan, and they fled in panic. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. It's better to be serious. Dustless shook his head and sighed. Then, he stared at Wanli-gu Yoli for a long time. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly, and he said in his heart, I'm afraid that this little girl deliberately pretended to be unconscious. Her purpose is to get close to me, the new king. She is really well informed. I just became your health room, and you fainted. Cough cough. After clearing his throat, Dustless's eyes flashed with a teasing look. He deliberately pretended to have a questioning expression and said to himself, the body's pulse and complexion seem to be fine. Although the weather is a bit hot, it doesn't seem to have the characteristics of heatstroke. His body is weak, but it shouldn't be to the extent of fainting. Dustless's eyes fell on Wanli-gu Yoli's body. Seeing that her eyes were still closed, he had to take an inch and ask for a mile. Could it be that there is a problem with other parts of the body, or... Aunt Flo is here. I'll check it out now. Ah. Just a second before his voice fell, Wanli-gu Yoli instantly sat up, and it was accompanied by a deafening, ear-piercing scream that made people tremble. Perverted teacher, stay away from me. Realizing that Dustless had approached the bed, Wanli-gu Yoli panicked and quickly picked up the pillow and threw it at him. Fortunately, Dustless dodged it with a god-level dodge. I'm helping you to treat, Wanli-gu Yoli. Dustless said with a smile. He thought in his heart, you are still 100,000 miles away from fighting with me. Treat. Hearing this, Wanli-gu Yoli's face instantly turned red. She couldn't help but curse Dustless's ancestors in her heart. She had the urge to vomit blood. She immediately labeled Wu Qin as a wretched pervert. She thought to herself, I only fainted. What does this have to do with whether my period came or not? Moreover, you want to personally check how perverted he is. Student Wanli-gu, your face is abnormally red. Is your blood flowing faster? His heart was beating rapidly. This is a big problem that needs to be treated. Hurry up and take off your... I'm fine. Wanli-gu Yoli quickly jumped out of the bed, and his expression quickly returned to normal. In order to dispel Dustless's doubts, he ran 2 laps in an extremely vigorous manner. It seems that he has really recovered. Tisk tisk, my medical skills are really brilliant. Dustless shamelessly boasted and sold himself, but he was laughing in his heart. Brilliant. Chapter 14:26. Dustless agreed to Wanli-gu Yoli's request after careful consideration. If he rejected her first, it would mean that she would come to him again. In that case, he might as well settle it once and for all. See you after school. Wanli-gu Yoli bowed with a smile and immediately left with light steps. Just as she was about to step out of the infirmary, her body stopped as if she had been electrocuted. May I know your name? Wanli-gu Yoli was very embarrassed. Thinking of her presumptuous behavior just now, her face reddened uncontrollably again. Who would be willing to have a girlfriend with a person they didn't even know? Dustless. Dustless responded softly. He put his hands in his pockets and looked at the golden scenery outside the window with boredom. Goodbye, Mr. Dustless. Wanli-gu Yoli's face bloomed with a charming smile before she hurriedly left. What a shy girl. Are you planning to eavesdrop on others' conversation? And you're terrible at hiding, Erica. Hearing the rapid breathing outside the infirmary, Dustless sneered in a strange tone. I thought someone brought their cow to see a doctor. So it's Erica-chan. Tap, tap, tap. Erica walked in righteously. Although she was eavesdropping on the conversation between Dustless and Wanli-gu Yoli, she said righteously, protecting the king's safety is the rule of a knight. This is not eavesdropping, but a duty. Please pay attention to your words. You're quite good at talking. Dustless sat down on the bed, holding his head and saying, really, ever since I became that whatever king, troublesome things have come one after another. If they're not trying to rope me in, they're trying to scheme against me. I can't be careless at all. Once a person had the power to destroy the world, he would inevitably become the target of all forces and organizations. This was an unchanging law since ancient times. Are you really going to see her? Erica asked with a frown. She was very unwilling. Dustless was only so big. If everyone wanted to take a bite out of him, how could she take a bite out of him? Of course. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. After all, this is their territory. Dustless said casually. Anyway, he had nothing to do. You're afraid that you'll be punished for troubling that little girl, aren't you? Erica snorted, as if she knew what he was thinking. After school, Dustless attracted a lot of attention as soon as he arrived at the school gate. What does that have to do with you? Dustless looked at Erica and asked. At this moment, his right arm was tightly gripped by her, sandwiched between her cleavage. It's a knight's responsibility to protect the king. Erica's expression was solemn, her tone sounding like that of a professional bodyguard. What about you? She turned her head and glanced at Shizuka Kusanagi, who was holding Dustless's left arm and glaring at Erica. You're Onie-san's friend. I can't bear to see you being led astray by others. Shizuka Kusanagi said with an expression of, I'm thinking for you. No wonder I attracted so much firepower, Wu-chan smiled bitterly. He realized that he was being glared at by countless boys. Their ferocious looks looked like they wanted to swallow him alive. Everyone loved beauty. Wu-chan took care of so many girls. How could the others live? Dustless sensei, you. A clear voice came from the side. Dustless turned his head and saw Wanli-gu Yoli, who had been waiting for him for a long time. You two go back first. Dustless stared at Shizuka Kusanagi and Erika, and said in a serious tone, I won't get lost, and I don't need a bodyguard. Shizuka Kusanagi and Erika looked at each other, and hearing Dustless's stern tone, they finally nodded. Remember to come back early tonight, I have something to tell you. Erika said with a rare serious expression. Something big. Hearing this, Dustless froze for a moment, and could not help but think of the Gorgon stone. Don't worry, you should know my strength. If you can't even protect yourself, you're just going to die. Erika and Kusanagi seemed to be very dissatisfied. Wanli-gu Yoli was worried. She did not want to break up Dustless's relationship because of her, so she suggested, how about, together? Don't worry about them. Patting Wanli-gu Yoli's shoulder gently, Dustless comforted her, they are not the kind of people who are unreasonable, that would be best. Wanli-gu Yoli echoed, and at the same time, pulled Dustless to lead the way. Despite some awkward misunderstandings, the two talked and laughed along the way and got along quite well. This scene is really unexpected. In the black car, the young man with glasses looked at Dustless and Wanli-gu Yoli's departing back with a wise look in his eyes. This king seems to be easier to deal with than his king, and he has a good temper. He seems to be easier to get along with than the other kings. The figure in the black car is called Gorgon Winterhorse, and he is the official representative of the redaction committee. In fact, he also asked Wanli-gu Yoli to win over Dustless. He thought that this simple girl would not be able to complete the task, but who would have thought that she would complete the task well and not find out the situation? Miss Wanli-gu doesn't seem to hate him very much. Driving quietly close to Dustless and Wanli-gu Yoli, Gorgon Winterhorse found that Wanli-gu Yoli would sometimes show a sincere smile, and the quick-witted Gorgon Winterhorse immediately came up with a good plan. If Miss Wanli-gu can be his girlfriend, or even if she can marry him, thinking of this, Gorgon Winterhorse was very excited. If they had a king to protect them, their future would definitely be promising. Chapter 1427. Thinking of this, Kanegi Winterhorse was particularly excited. It was as if he had already seen Dustless's appearance in the future. Whiz whiz whiz. With a super drift, Kanegi Winterhorse disappeared from sight. Although Kanegi Winterhorse had some sympathy for Wanli-gu Yoli, at least he didn't catch the disgust from her expression. Even if she didn't like Dustless, she wouldn't hate him. This made Kanegi Winterhorse feel less guilty. Really, just be a good human being. You have to scream about things that have nothing to do with you. It's really boring. Wu Chen sighed softly. The sudden appearance of Winterhorse of Sweet Meal, and even the words he muttered to himself, all fell into his ears without missing a word. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, about 10 minutes had passed. Dustless and Wanli-gu Yoli also came to a special courtyard. The surroundings were full of flowers and plants. The scenery was pleasant, especially the elegant shrine had a retro taste. Is this your home? The scenery is very good. It's really a pleasure to live here. Dustless nodded secretly and looked at the figure running quickly from the left. The only uninvited guest was probably him. Sorry, my name is Kanegi Winterhorse. I'm the official representative of our country's compilation committee. The uncle with glasses bowed gently and was polite. I hope that Miss Wanli-gu would invite you. If I offended you, please forgive me. Kanegi Winterhorse continued to explain, reluctantly being responsible. I've already seen this. Dustless replied indifferently, I just went to Qingjia to be a teacher, and you fainted. This is too much of a coincidence. Hearing this, Wanli-gu Yoli's small face was slightly red, and a strange feeling rose in her heart. Since teacher Dustless knows this is a conspiracy, but she still rushed over without hesitation, indicating that she deliberately helped me out. Wanli-gu Yoli was very well behaved and poured 2 cups of tea. Her gentle appearance was like a pretty daughter of a humble family, giving people the impression that she was very intellectual. "If you have something to say, I just hope that you won't do those boring surveillance in the future, otherwise." Releasing a wisp of his own killing intent, the surrounding air instantly condensed, and the biting cold in the hot weather was particularly terrifying. "Of course." Winter Horse Ganji wiped his cold sweat and nodded. In his heart, he sighed that the king was indeed temperamental. One second, he could be friends with you, and the next second, he could put a knife to your neck. "I hope you can join. If you want me to join your organization, then save it." "I'm not interested in that at all." Dustless bluntly refused after receiving the tea from Wanligu Yoli. "Of course not." Dustless immediately changed his mind. He was not surprised by Dustless's rejection. If he was the king, he would also reject without hesitation. It was good to be free. Why would he want to be someone else's pawn? "However, I still hope that when the god of disobedience appears, your excellency can protect our country." With a face full of sincerity, Winter Horse said, "In return, my country can agree to all of your conditions." Dustless's performance was mediocre. He had already guessed that this would be the case. "Okay, if you know that I'm in this country and still dare to come out, it's a blasphemy to me." Rubbing his chin, Dustless waved his hand and said. Then he stretched leisurely and remembered Erica's instructions. When he was about to retreat home, he suddenly smelled something unusual. It was a hissing sound similar to a python. "Ah! I didn't finish my sentence for long, and you came to add insult to injury. You did it on purpose. How can I accept this, Miss Athena?" Looking up at the sky, Dustless happened to find a cold gaze sizing him up. It was Athena, who he encountered a few days ago in Sardinia, Italy. At this moment, her expression was cold, and her cold temperament seemed to be isolated from the world. There was a faint hostility in her eyes. "This guy is extraordinarily strong. He can still remain so calm in the face of a god." Winter Horse secretly clicked his tongue. When he heard that the opponent was Athena, his body seemed to be fixed in place. After all, she was a god. In front of her, humans were just ant-like grains of sand, not worth mentioning. If she wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. "You have my scent on you." Staring at Dustless for a long time, Athena finally said something inexplicable. No way, is there something wrong with my ears?" Hearing this, Wanligu Yoli and Winter Horse were stunned. Wanligu Yoli's face was full of awkwardness. She vaguely understood what Athena meant. She immediately cursed Dustless in her heart for being a womanizer and not even letting go of a god. Winter Horse secretly gave Dustless a thumbs up. He was shocked that he even dared to lay his hands on a god. As expected of the lawless king. Seeing this, the corner of Dustless's mouth twitched. He found that Wanligu Yoli and Winter Horse were looking at him differently. He snapped at Athena, "Watch your words. Don't cause a misunderstanding." Dustless could not help but be angry. He cursed Athena in his heart for deliberately sowing discord. As surpassers in different fields, why should we care about the feelings of ordinary people? Let them think what they want. It has nothing to do with me. From the beginning to the end, Athena's tone was calm and collected. She did not even look at Wanligu Yoli and Winter Horse. In her eyes, except for Dustless, the others were just insignificant humans. "Miss Athena, are you looking for me?" Dustless asked. He was too lazy to talk to her about trivial matters. He said, "If you still want to challenge me, I advise you to give up. The gap between us is too big." "Awesome! Awesome! Awesome!" Hearing this, Winter Horse was full of admiration. He could not wait to go over and thank Dustless. Daring to say that the gap between them was too big to a god. The person who said this was either a super strong person who had the power to destroy the world or a lunatic who sneaked out of a mental hospital during the holidays. Chapter 1428. Both Thousand Miles Guyoli and Winter Horse Gorgon tensed up. They thought that Athena would cause a ruckus if she went berserk, but to their surprise, she remained silent. She just floated quietly in the sky, looking down at Dustless silently, her eyes blinking as she circled Dustless, as if thinking about something. "It can't be wrong, you do have my scent on you." Athena repeated again, her light tone was much heavier than before, and her tone was firm. This girl, hearing this, Dustless frowned and looked at Athena with a slightly dissatisfied look. Judging from her performance, she did not seem to be lying. Could it be, suddenly thinking of a possibility, Dustless guessed, could it be the Gorgon stone? Speaking of which, I just met Erica. Athena doesn't seem like someone who would cause trouble for no reason. If Erica had the Gorgon stone, and Dustless had come into contact with her, then everything could be explained. "The thing you want is useless, but," with a slightly serious tone, Dustless suggested, "I know someone who might have it. If you don't mind, you can come with me." "You know." Athena's gem eyes rippled as she stared quietly at Dustless, hesitating for a moment, unable to make up her mind. Who knows what kind of person this guy is? To be fair, this guy is too strange. "What, a god is afraid of me?" Dustless sneered and said sarcastically, "And you are a goddess of the Trinity, it seems that you are just a so-so." "Humph, you were lucky to defeat me last time." After being repeatedly provoked by Dustless, Athena's calm heart burst into flames, and she said unkindly, "So what if I go with you? Lead the way." With that, Athena landed on the ground like a dragonfly skimming the water, and calmly walked to Dustless's side, her eyes clearly saying that she would follow him. "How can you be so capricious? You really are a problem child." Seeing this, Dustless smiled bitterly, and gave an apologetic look to Guyoli and Gorgon Winterhorse. "Who are you calling a problem child? I don't even know how old I am," Athena said coldly. Dustless's words hit her where it hurts. Only by retrieving the Gorgon stone can she regain her divine position and age. That was why she was so happy to track the Gorgon stone. "Speaking of which, if I help you find the Gorgon stone, how will you thank me?" Dustless asked with a smile. "As a god, you shouldn't be stingy." "Damn it, are you kidding me?" Did he even know who he was talking to? Is this a conversation between friends from the wrong script? Wanli Guyoli and Ganzhan Dongma looked at each other and saw the helplessness and shock in each other's eyes. This was a legendary deity, not a hawker in the market. There was no such thing as bargaining. "At least, you should be a bit more serious." "Thank you." Athena raised her eyebrows, and tilted her head as if she was thinking, and after a few seconds of silence, she awkwardly found that she had no reward. Chapter 1429. Winterhorse thought of his reckless action and cursed his stupidity. That was provoking the king and god. Maybe it would only take a moment to kill them and his lowly life. Damn it, this world is so cruel and unfair. Winterhorse said emotionally. The probability of the number of kings and gods increasing was zero, and humans were just a weak group waiting to be dominated. Not everyone was like Dustless, who had the power to destroy the world and could easily kill gods. Looking at the whole world, there were only 7 god-slayers. Just this crazy probability alone showed the probability of the birth of a god-slayer. "It's getting closer." Down the street, Athena followed Dustless. She could feel the aura of the Gorgon stone getting closer and closer. Following Dustless was definitely the right choice. "Are you not afraid that I will betray you and get the Gorgon stone and kill you?" Athena asked curiously as she looked at the calm Dustless. "I believe that I will keep my promise." Dustless shrugged, with an indifferent expression, and then added, "Of course, I have enough confidence in my own strength." "You Hearing this, Athena's eyes widened as she thought to herself, this guy's eloquence has not deteriorated at all. In fact, Dustless was just looking down on her. Basically, he was quietly telling Athena that even if she regained her strength, she would not be on par with him, and he was not afraid of her sudden attack. What a confident guy. Athena frowned. Although she did not want to admit it, it was undeniable that Dustless did have that kind of strength. We're here. Walking in front of an apartment, Dustless gestured for her to enter. It is indeed here. When she heard that Shizuka Kusanagi was in front of her house, Athena's heart throbbed even more, and her heart beat faster, and she even saw the Gorgon stone in a daze. Thank you. Athena's thin lips parted slightly, revealing a rare touch of true emotion, but it sounded bitter, and a blush flashed across her face. This little girl also has a cute side. Seeing this, Dustless smiled and invited, come in and have a seat. I don't think Jinghua will dislike you. That won't be necessary. Just go in and bring out the Gorgon stone. I'll wait outside. Athena shook her head. She was used to being alone and was not good at socializing. Don't tell me you won't run while I run. Dustless teased, I'm sure you've seen my speed. Even as a god, you won't be able to catch up to me. Indeed. Athena nodded. You can run, but I'll tear her house down. Athena said in a soft voice. This barbaric goddess is really unreasonable. Dustless smiled bitterly and stepped into the room. A warm breeze blew against his face, making him feel very comfortable. You're finally back. Erika on the sofa breathed a sigh of relief. Kusanagi Shizuka was already asleep. She had been waiting for Dustless for a long time. Where's the Gorgon stone? Dustless asked faintly as he poured himself a cup of hot tea. You know about it. Hearing this, Erika was stunned for a moment before she looked at the cold Dustless and said awkwardly, I'm sorry to hide this from you. They had no choice but to give the Gorgon stone to me. This kind of thing will attract revenge wherever it is kept. Only by giving it to you as the king can you protect him. So you're saying that I have to protect it? After taking a sip of tea, Dustless remained calm and said, leave her to me. I will protect the Gorgon stone with my life. Protect the peace of the world. That's the king in my heart. Hearing this, Erika revealed a cheerful smile. She immediately jumped in front of Dustless and gently pecked him on the face. Smells so good. Dustless nodded slightly, and then took the initiative to seal Erika's thin lips, and quietly took the Gorgon stone in his hand. Ahem, I suddenly remembered that I left something at school. I'll be back soon. With that, Dustless turned into a hurricane and disappeared, leaving a stunned Erika behind. The Gorgon stone, here you go. Looking at Athena who had been waiting outside the door for a long time, Dustless handed the Gorgon stone to Athena and threw it to her without even blinking. Gulp. Athena took the Gorgon stone in shock. Her arms were trembling as she looked at Dustless in disbelief. The reason why she did not want to step into the room was that she felt that there was a trap, but now it seemed that she was overthinking it. Thank you, I will remember this favor. Athena thanked him seriously, and at the same time used the same tactic as Erika, leaving a kiss mark on Dustless's face while he was distracted. Beauty and beauty. Dustless was very pleased with himself, and just as he was about to attack Athena, a hoarse voice suddenly rang out, and Dustless stopped as if he had been electrocuted. I say, you too, a shrill voice suddenly rang out, and Dustless and Athena looked at each other and followed the source of the voice. It was Erika, whose veins were bulging. Damn it, caught in the act. Seeing this, Dustless knew that things were not going well, and he broke out in cold sweat. Especially when he had just obtained the Gorgon stone, Dustless had colluded with the enemy and provided it to Athena, and there would be a bloodbath. You! Glaring at Dustless, Erika was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She had just given the Gorgon stone to Dustless for safekeeping, and the next second, he gave it to Athena. Chapter 1430. Erica glared at Dustless, not bothering to hide her anger. She did not expect this guy to be so cunning. She had just given the Gorgon stone to him for safekeeping, and Dustless had given it to the enemy in such a short period of time. Using the Gorgon stone to win the enemies. Erica's face was red with embarrassment. She had seen the scene between Dustless and Athena clearly, and she wished she could find a crack in the ground and crawl into it. How could she go out and meet people in the future? That is a reward from a beauty to a servant. Athena said matter-of-factly as she stared at Dustless, occasionally showing a satisfied smile, as if she was extremely satisfied with Dustless as a servant. Wait. Dustless could no longer remain calm, and asked, "Servant. When did I become your servant?" Even rudely. We are still enemies. I am very satisfied with you, and it is your fortune to be my servant. Athena repeated, her firm tone filled with possessiveness. What kind of trouble is this? After a few bitter laughs, Dustless said with a straight face, "Miss Athena, I am very pleased that you think highly of me, but I am not interested in being your servant, please go back." You fool. Erica moved closer to Dustless and scolded, "Now you know it's troublesome. Were you blinded by lust? This guy might destroy the world, and once Athena gets the Gorgon stone, she may recover all her strength. Don't worry." Patting Erica on the shoulder, Dustless explained, "The so-called Gorgon stone was originally Athena's, and I personally don't think it's too much to return it to its rightful owner." Hearing this, Erica's bitter smile deepened, and she felt like crying. Although Dustless's words made sense, it still depended on who the other party was. "Since you don't agree, I can only force you to agree," Athena said seriously, suddenly feeling that it was not bad to turn Dustless into a servant, and Athena felt very satisfied at the thought of the dead man being turned into a servant. Boom boom boom. Athena's body erupted with an unimaginable amount of mana. Like a volcano erupting, purplish-black mana overflowed. Rings of light gradually spread out and quickly engulfed the entire sky. At the same time, a crackling sound came from Athena's body. Looking at the source, Athena's body expanded rapidly as if she had been injected with hormones. On the surface, he looked like a 12 or 13-year-old child. But now, he had transformed into a high and mighty god that could only be watched from afar and not played with. Athena's figure grew bigger, and her voluptuous figure gradually became more prominent. She wore ancient clothing, and her silver hair flowed down to her waist. Her purple-black eyes were as beautiful as gems, and they even glowed as bright as moonlight. This guy can't be serious, right? Dustless secretly clicked his tongue. If he had been killed directly, he could still understand. Chapter 1431. Dustless was secretly amused. Athena didn't seem to have figured it out. She thought that she could match him just because she had regained her former strength. That was a big mistake. "Let me go." Athena, who felt the comfort of the shackles, whispered. At the same time, she struggled with all her might, trying to break through the shackles with brute force. However, while dreams were beautiful, reality was abnormally cruel. Athena used all her strength, but still could not escape the powerful shackles of the shackles. What is this thing? She was so tired that she gasped for breath. It was just a chain, yet she couldn't get rid of it even though she was a god. Athena felt like she was dreaming. She felt like she was in a dream. This is the heavenly lock. Without further ado, Dustless only said the name of the weapon. This is a weapon specially used to bind gods. The higher your divinity, the stronger the heavenly lock. Upon hearing this, Athena was speechless. Her lips moved, but in the end, she was speechless. What else could she say when he even had such an overpowered weapon? I refuse to accept this. Athena gritted her teeth. She had just recovered to her peak, and before she could enjoy the surging power, she was easily subdued by Dustless. How could she accept this? You refuse to accept this. So what, you are now my captive. Dustless pursed his lips, and had to remind her that she had failed and was captured. Furthermore, as a captive, I can do whatever I want to you. This was what it meant when he said that failure was the end of everything. What are you trying to do? Athena's neck shrank back as a bad thought flashed through her mind. Upon hearing this, Dustless smiled mysteriously, and then walked lightly to Athena, and said without batting an eyelid, Miss Athena, I have done you a great favor, and I gave you the Gorgon stone. I thought that I would let you go, but now you want to take revenge on me, and make me your servant. How can I let you go unscathed? Athena's heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly realized that something was wrong. What is he trying to do? Erica was also puzzled. To be honest, she did not understand some of Dustless's sudden actions. She was just a god of disobedience, and killing her would be the end of it. What was the point of letting her go? Under Erica's confused gaze, Dustless walked behind Athena. What are you trying to do? I am a god. Turning her head to look at Dustless behind her, Athena felt even more uneasy. She had the illusion that she was being stared at by a smiling tiger, and her whole body trembled abnormally. Aren't you a god? Didn't you want to catch me? I'll teach you a lesson. Clap, 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 clap. A crisp sound suddenly came. Athena and Erica were both stunned. It was extremely rhythmic, but for some reason, Erica had a feeling that a great disaster was about to befall her. This guy. He even dared to god, S to she's S twos a god's asterisk 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 S asterisk S asterisk S S star. But, that was the way just thinking about it made Erica panic as if the world was about to be destroyed. This guy was gambling with the safety of the whole world. Nice touch. Dustless nodded slightly with a satisfied expression. He looked at Athena, and he could vaguely hear her grinding her teeth, and her breathing was dozens of times faster than usual. Hey, Miss Athena, you have to calm down now. Although I am the health doctor of Qingja School, it will be troublesome if you faint from anger. I might have to perform CPR. Dustless teased her with a serious and teasing tone. Athena's face flushed red as she glared at Dustless. Her arms and legs were all bound by the heavenly chains, and even though Dustless was close at hand, she could not attack. She could only suppress her anger and glare at him. She swore to herself that she would make Dustless pay her back 1,000 times in the future. You still want to take revenge on me? This god is a little arrogant. Don't you realize the gap between us now? Dustless stared at Athena, and even though she hid her desire for revenge very cleverly, he could still see it clearly. Then, there was a burst of strange laughter, and Athena trembled. Kill me if you dare. Athena glared at Dustless fiercely, and her body was cold. Even if you kill me, no one will let you have an easy time in the future. Even now, you are still so stubborn, Miss Athena. Dustless shook his head slowly, and his eyes shot out bursts of terrifying light. Gulp. Even with Athena's calm temperament, she could not help but feel her scalp tingle. Who knew what kind of perverted things this guy could do? Ahem, Dustless coughed softly, cleared his throat, and said loudly, in that case, I can only continue to teach Miss Athena a lesson. It is not good to fight and kill. Dustless shrugged and showed an I am very kind expression. Keep pretending. The fox's tail that you hide will be exposed eventually. Erica scolded in her mind. Why didn't you say that when you bullied Mercator and Velislana? She looked at Athena and saw that the heavenly chains had tied her up tightly, and she could not move at all. The so-called god was now like a fish on the chopping board, and Dustless could do whatever he wanted to her. At this point, Erica actually sympathized with Athena. Encountering someone like Dustless, who didn't play by the rules, could be considered as her unlucky year. Slap. 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 There were 2 more crisp sounds. Erica knew without looking that Athena's butt had been slapped again. Chapter 1432. Feeling the faint pain from her buttocks, Athena's eyes were spitting fire. If looks could kill, Dustless would have been reduced to dust by now. As one of the Trinity, she was actually spanked by a servant. Athena was so depressed that she wanted to vomit blood, especially when there was a bystander watching her suffer the greatest humiliation of her life. Athena wished she could find a hole to hide in. You dare to fight me? Dustless smiled smugly. In Erica's eyes, this frivolous and arrogant expression was a prelude. However, he had to admit that this trick was very effective against a goddess like Athena who thought highly of herself. The more Athena valued her dignity, the more Dustless trampled on it. I'm going to kill you. Athena growled. Her eyes were filled with endless coldness as she looked at Dustless. A mere servant dared to spank her master's buttocks. Where was her dignity? How was she going to survive in the future? Especially when there was a bystander. You're at such a disadvantage and you still want to kill me. Dustless sneered and reminded Athena out of friendship, maybe you don't know, but I have a special hobby. I like to film the embarrassing state of the enemies I've defeated. Erica, go and bring me the high-definition camera I bought for 50 million yen. I want to film Miss Athena's unforgettable, wait. Seeing that Erica really ran into the room, Athena finally could not hold it in any longer. The terrifying sound of teeth grinding also disappeared. In the end, she lowered her head and admitted defeat. Let me go this time. I can what? This is a big problem. Athena thought hard for a long time but couldn't come up with a reason. Her delicate little face was troubled. Besides, she had always regarded Dustless as the best servant. Since you like to make me your servant so much, with a wicked smile, Dustless suggested, then you can be my servant first. It feels good to have a goddess as my servant. Pfft. Erica and Athena both spat out a mouthful of blood. Especially Athena, the veins on her forehead bulged and her body burst out with a purple-black evil light. It was a high-density murderous aura that was enough to make people collapse. Make me your servant. Athena was so angry that she laughed and said sarcastically, you fought me for 300 rounds. If you didn't defeat me with such despicable means, I wouldn't mind being your servant. However, Dustless ignored her. It just so happens that my arms have been a little sore recently. I might as well use your butt to train my arm strength. After saying that, Wu Chen went even further this time. He directly lifted Athena's clothes, revealing her white and tender skin. It was so dazzling that he felt dizzy. Just a moment ago, they were separated by clothes, but now they were touching skin to skin. You despicable and shameless bastard, I will kill you. Athena bellowed, not caring about her image as a goddess. Chapter 1434. Do you need to take back the Gorgon stone? Erica asked quietly after a few seconds of silence. Even though Erica's voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz and could be ignored, Athena, who was a god, heard it clearly. She immediately looked at Dustless nervously. If Dustless took it by force, she would not be able to do anything. It's useless to give me a stone, keep it. Without even thinking about it, Dustless refused. With the Gorgon stone, Athena would have the strength of her heyday, and if she peeled off the Gorgon stone, she would return to her original appearance and become a 12 or 13-year-old girl, and there was a fatal factor. Her strength would be greatly reduced. No one wants to have their strength reduced, especially Athena, who had just recovered her strength, and she did not want her strength to be short-lived and lose its shine after just one night. As such, Dustless did not try to snatch the Gorgon stone by force. "It's getting late, let's go back to sleep," Dustless said and took the lead into the room. "By the way, there are no extra rooms at the moment, where are you going to sleep?" Dustless asked as he turned to look at Athena, who was in her mature form. Although Kusanagi Protector's room was still empty, he could not let Athena sleep in a dead man's room. "It's simple," Athena said casually and looked seriously at Dustless, and said, "I'm willing to accept my loss, and since I promised to be your servant after losing, I will definitely abide by the agreement, so I'll sleep in your room." Athena's matter-of-fact tone immediately aroused Erika's dissatisfaction, and she said, regardless of Athena's identity as a god, "I strongly object." "Mind your own business." Dustless pursed his lips, knowing what Erika was thinking, because often in the middle of the night, he would be ambushed by her. If Athena joined in, wouldn't it be worse? "Absolutely not allowed. You can sleep in Kusanagi Protector's room, you two are good friends anyway." Erika made the decision for Dustless. Without giving Dustless a chance to speak, she brought Athena to Dustless's bedroom. It seemed that Athena was going to take over Dustless's room. F***ck, is she really a servant? There's something wrong with this script. Why am I the one being kicked out? It seems like the master-servant relationship has really been switched. Above Dustless's head, 100,000 crows and 100,000 grass mud horses whizzed past. "Stop right there and then." Striding to Erika and Athena, Dustless asked solemnly, "To tell you the truth, I'm scared of ghosts." "Why don't?" Glancing at Athena from the corner of his eye, Dustless's appetite was aroused. After regaining her divine status and age, Athena's hot body was undoubtedly revealed. Her voluptuous cleavage was not inferior to Erika's at all. Her clothes were bulging, especially the clothes she was wearing were rather special. In Dustless's eyes, her skin was vaguely visible, as if it were transparent. Her snow-white skin was vaguely visible. In particular, Athena's identity as a god was like a fatal poppy, teasing Dustless's already restless heart. How great would it be to have such a servant? She could fight with her body and warm up the bed. Dustless suddenly felt that such a servant was too worthwhile. "Why don't I suffer and sleep with Athena?" After saying that, Dustless reached out to grab Athena's soft arm, but he suddenly felt that something was wrong. It was hard and didn't feel like a soft and boneless hand. He instinctively turned his head. F***ck, you're so fast. Why didn't you react so quickly when I drew my sword to kill the enemy? Dustless slandered in his heart. What he was grabbing was a spear, and Erika was looking at him with an unfriendly face. Her eyes were clearly saying that there was no way he could steal her. "Do you want me to sleep alone?" Dustless was speechless. Although he didn't believe in ghosts, sleeping in the room of a person who had just died, and Dustless had even beaten him when he was alive, it was inevitable that he would be obedient. "I don't mind." Athena's exquisite face was expressionless and calm. Her purple-black crystal eyes stared at Dustless, and a strange look flashed across her eyes. In fact, the gods had no opinion on the selection of a mate. There was only one criterion: weak strength. Nothing else mattered. In the ancient era that Athena had lived in, strength was even more important. Whether one was ugly or not, including other races. These were actually not important. In ancient myths, there were many stories of humans and beasts becoming partners. Hearing that, Erika almost vomited blood in frustration. She looked at Athena speechlessly. "As a god, you're too blind. This guy is clearly trying to take advantage of you. What's the point of this?" Seeing this, Dustless was secretly pleased. He winked at Erika and suggested a bad idea: "If you think there's a problem, you can actually join us." Anyway, the bed is big enough to accommodate 3 people. I think there shouldn't be a problem. Erica was speechless. She didn't want to leave Dustless alone, but if she took the initiative to join them, she would lose face. You guys are still awake after all that noise. It's almost dawn now. A lazy voice came from the depths of the corridor. Looking over, Dustless realized that it was Kusanagi Shizuka. He knew that his plan to take down the goddess tonight was going to fail. Ahem. Shizuka, this is Athena. She's an assistant in the infirmary. Something happened today, so she can only stay at home. Why don't you two squeeze in? Erica pointed at Dustless and suggested. This guy is really good at lying. Turning back to the room, Dustless knew that he had no chance tonight. He knew Shizuka's personality very well. Although she was sometimes strict with her words, she was really kind at heart. Chapter 1435. The next morning, the sun shone brightly. Last night, Athena and Shizuka Kusanagi slept together. Dust had no choice but to release the fallen angel Asuma Amano from the original world temporarily to quench her thirst. After that, he let her go back. The devil's kung fu is so good. Dustless muttered as he put on his clothes. He was full of praises for Asuma Amano's kung fu. His legs were still a little weak. It will be ready sooner or later. Dustless, bro, we will take our leave first. Shizuka Kusanagi's anxious voice came from downstairs. As for Dustless, he went downstairs leisurely. He was a doctor in the infirmary and had no other requirements. It was not a problem for him to wait for a while. Athena seems to have left too. He thought that Athena was still sleeping. Unexpectedly, there was no sign of her in Shizuka's room. She probably went out for something. Forget it. She shouldn't be missing. Dustless was too lazy to think about it since he could not find Athena. Her legs were her own, and he could not tie them up with a rope. After about half an hour, Wuche finally arrived. It took him about 15 minutes to reach the infirmary. You really like lazy men. Before he opened the door of the infirmary, a dissatisfied voice came from inside. Is that the bald principal? Wuchen asked suspiciously. He gently pushed the door open and was immediately dumbfounded. He stared blankly at the figure close at hand. His head was spinning a little. The person in front of him was wearing a white coat with black stockings. Her perfect figure was exposed. She exuded a mature aura and was holding a white notebook. Athena. After confirming that he was not short-sighted, Dustless looked as if he had seen a ghost. You are dressed like this. Are you also a health teacher in this school? No, I'm your assistant now, Athena said with a serious expression. Assistant. You don't have to worry about it. Hurry up and go home. Not many people come to the infirmary. I am redundant as a health teacher, let alone an assistant like you. Dustless ordered Athena to leave so that she could be more reliable. It was ridiculous to be a doctor's assistant. She was only good at killing people. It's redundant. Athena looked at the information in her hand and nodded. There were only a few people who felt unwell every month. Dustless, the healthcare teacher, slept almost every day. Hurry up. An anxious voice came from the corridor. The infirmary is just up ahead. You guys be careful. I'll call Teacher Dustless first. As expected of the Lord of Hell. As soon as you arrived, someone immediately came to treat you. Dustless laughed sarcastically. He couldn't help but take a second look at Athena. Her perfect figure was even more perfect than Dustless had imagined. Humph. Athena just coldly swept a glance at Dustless and directly ignored him. It seems to be for young girls, Dustless said with a frown. Chapter 1436. Go back. Wanli Guyo looked at Dustless suspiciously. If Dustless did not know about Liliana's identity, she could still trust him. After all, they had no grudges against each other. However, now that she knew about Liliana's identity, the meaning was different. Don't worry, she's just a weak little girl. No matter how immoral I am, I won't kill her. Wu Qin made a solemn vow in a clear voice. All right then, Wanli Guyo took a deep look at Liliana and did not say much. Although they were both kings, Dustless had no reason to murder Liliana. After all, this guy could even let the god of disobedience go. There was no reason for him to murder a little girl. Moreover, just like what Wu Qin said, she was a little girl who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. With me around, she won't die, Athena said softly. Finally, they're all gone. After about 10 seconds, Wanli Guyo and Wanli Guyo left. Only Athena and Dustless were left in the huge healthcare room. You know her? Pointing at the pale girl, Dustless asked, the two of you should be familiar with each other. That's not important. Athena did not care and said casually, I know that this girl's identity is not simple. I'm just curious about the god slayer behind her. I see. Dustless understood and immediately approached Liliana's bedside quietly. He cleared his throat and a sly look appeared in his eyes. He decisively chose to use the same old trick and deliberately said to himself, she doesn't look like she's sick. Could it be caused by her period? Quickly take off her underwear and let me check. You! Athena, who had just sat down, stood up reflexively and looked at Dustless with a green face. She shouted angrily, are you kidding me? How can such nonsense wake her up? Don't. However, what made Athena petrified was that Liliana really stood up angrily. You bastard! Liliana glared at him angrily. Her delicate face was flushed red, and her fists were cracking. Her piercingly cold eyes were as deep as the cold wind. The infirmary suddenly became chilly, as if it was in a world of ice and snow. Dustless ignored Liliana's murderous aura and said to Athena with a smile, although some of his strategies are terrible, I can't deny that they are very useful. Miss Liliana, you dare to invade my territory, and even dare to injure people. Dustless said pointedly, this is a blatant provocation. Is Marquis Warban issuing a challenge to me? You know everything. Liliana was clearly stunned. She did not expect Dustless to know her identity. She clenched her fists tightly. Athena's appearance made her extremely nervous. As a god slayer, you actually colluded with a disobedient god? Liliana shouted angrily as she pointed at Athena. She believed that Dustless had betrayed humanity. Why not? In my eyes, there is no difference between humans, god slayers, and gods. Dustless explained nonchalantly, everything in the world is just a type of life form. There is only a difference in strength. Liliana moved her mouth. She clearly felt that Dustless was a big liar, but she was powerless to respond. Kill her, Athena said calmly. A purplish-black light floated in her hand, and a gleaming scythe appeared. It locked onto Liliana with hostility, not concealing her murderous intent. Liliana's expression changed drastically. She immediately felt that her body was not listening to her. She knew that this was the effect of Athena's murderous aura, and she was powerless to deal with it. No matter what kind of genius one was, they would be unable to cope with the strength of a god. Liliana did not even have the courage to resist, especially when faced with a god and a god slayer whose strength was unfathomable. To put it bluntly, if she wanted to hurt someone, she would definitely be killed in an instant. It was ridiculous for a mere human to dream of challenging a king and a god. Marquis Warban sent you here, right? That old man is not going to stop at all. Liliana tried to bluff her way out, but Dustless answered for her. He wants to use the god of disobedience, summoning ritual of the witches to kill more gods. His ambition is not small, and his desire for authority has reached the point where he has forgotten himself. Among the few god slayers, he seems to have the most authority. How does this guy know so much? Liliana did not seem to be moved, but her tightly shut mouth was clenched so hard that her teeth were about to shatter. I have heard of that god slayer, Athena suddenly said. She thought about it and recalled. He hunts gods for fun. In the past, the god of disobedience, summoning ritual was related to him. However, he is quite bold to dare to set his sights on me. Dustless sneered, and the air suddenly became bone-chilling. But I really don't understand. I have no relationship with him, and there is no enmity between us. Why did you enter Qingja Academy? I only tamed Athena yesterday, and no matter how well-informed Marquis Warban is, he does not know that Athena is one of my people. Dustless was puzzled. Not tamed, but submitted. Athena's tone was full of anger. She was not a beast and did not need to be tamed. Athena had only submitted to Dustless yesterday, and Marquis Warban obviously could not have come for him, nor could it be Erika or Kusanagi Shizuka. To an arrogant king like Marquis Warban, humans were not worth mentioning. Thus, only Dustless was left, but he was sure that he had not offended Marquis Warban. Now that Liliana had come to him for no reason, he could not understand. Chapter 1437. Dustless expressed that he really did not understand. If not for the fact that he had no other choice, the god-slayers would not want to offend each other. Now that Marquis Oban had come to him for no reason, Dustless was confused. I can't tell you that. Liliana gritted her teeth and rejected Dustless's expectations. In fact, she had no other choice. If she told Dustless the truth, Liliana was sure that Marquis Oban would kill her, and her future would be as miserable as his servants of the dead. Rather than that, she would rather be killed by Dustless. Tsk tisk, Dustless smiled, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Not only did Liliana's heart skip a beat, but even Athena's expression changed slightly. The king disdained using despicable means, but Dustless was different. He would use whatever method was the quickest, and it did not matter if it was despicable or not. As long as it succeeded. Tsk. Erika is still in class. It's not appropriate to ask her to interrogate you on my behalf. It seems that I have to think of a way to solve this myself. Dustless knew that Erika had something on Liliana. The only pity was that Erika was in class at the moment. Dustless had to think of a way himself. Athena, prepare the clearest photo for me. Dustless suddenly said thoughtfully, I'll leave the photographer to you, Miss Athena. What do you want? Liliana and Athena asked at the same time. They looked at Dustless's cowardly smile, and bad thoughts arose in their minds. Idiot! Glaring at Athena, Dustless secretly scolded her for being insensible. He said righteously, didn't Miss Liliana say that she's sick just now? I've observed that she has gynecological diseases. Gynecological diseases. Liliana felt as if 100 million crows had flown past her forehead. Her whole face was twitching as she stared at Dustless, dumbfounded. She had already guessed what this guy was going to say. Our school's health center is lacking teachers. Including you and me, there are only 2 of us. How sad is this? So, when I treat Miss Liliana's gynecological disease later, you have to film the whole process. In the future, we can use it to publicize and tell the world about the greatness of our doctors. We can also use it as a free advertisement to attract more students. Dustless said with a serious expression. This guy, looking at the serious Dustless, Athena was so angry that she was speechless. She looked at Liliana with pity and gave her a sympathetic look. Then, he went to prepare the video camera. Fortunately, there was only one left in the clinic. Die! Unable to bear it any longer, Liliana exploded and slashed with her sword. Poochie. The tip of the sword sliced through Dustless's body, slicing him into two. Before Liliana could even be pleasantly surprised, a warm glow emerged from the wound, and the split wound instantly healed. Too weak. Dustless shook his head and looked at Liliana's feet. He looked at Liliana with his mouth agape and said in astonishment, "I didn't know you could write romance novels." He gave Liliana a thumbs up without hesitation, then motioned for Erica to continue reading. "We are like, wait, I agree to your request." Liliana hurriedly begged for mercy. Their malicious smiles were a far greater blow to her than a simple physical attack. She had to suppress her anger and lower her head. Moreover, after offending and betraying Marquis Warban, unless she found someone to protect her, she would end up in a miserable state. The best outcome would be to become Marquis Warban's servant. "That's the right choice, Miss Liliana. You will be honored by your decision in the future." Seeing that Liliana had given in, Dustless heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "If Marquis Warban knows that you betrayed him, that old fellow will definitely go berserk." "Indeed." Liliana nodded in agreement. She understood Marquis Warban's character. Or rather, every person in a high position and power would be extremely wary of one kind of person, traitors. "You want to use this little girl as bait to lure him." The intelligent Athena immediately understood Dustless's intention. She nodded and said, "It's not impossible to give it a try. Given Warban's personality, he will definitely take the initiative to kill us." "Are you crazy?" Liliana's eyes were gloomy, and she muttered to herself like a machine, "That fellow is a god slayer, and he is the oldest supermaster who has killed the most gods. To be honest, if he hadn't killed so many gods, I wouldn't have been interested in him. It's precisely because he has killed so many gods that I am interested in him." Dustless said nonchalantly. If Marquis Warban could kill the most gods, it meant that he definitely had something extraordinary about him. He wanted to see how heaven-defying that old fellow was. "I think so too." Athena's beautiful eyes were smiling. It was rare for her to stand in the same trench as Dustless. That fellow's target, apart from Dustless, seems to be Wanli-gu Yoli as well. Of course, I can't let him go. Even if we don't provoke such an ambitious person, he won't let us go. Therefore, I also agreed to kill Marquis Warban. Erica's beautiful face was tense, and her breath was cold. Liliana moved her mouth, but in the end, she couldn't be bothered to say more. As the king, Dustless had already made the decision, so what could she, a small pawn who had just joined this group, say? Moreover, Athena, this big shot, had also agreed. "I use my body in exchange for information." Liliana stared at Marquis Warban nervously. When she saw him nod as if he believed in this passable method, she was relieved. So that fellow really is Luo Hao's disciple. Then let's start with him. I heard that the witch named Wanli-gu Yoli is also very close to him. Let's get rid of them all at once. Marquis Warban chuckled, full of pride. He hated Luo Hao so much that he gritted his teeth. Other than that, there's also great news. Liliath glanced at Marquis Warban and said cautiously, "Other than that, Goddess Athena seems to be with that fellow." "Are you sure?" A greedy glint flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes. His tone rose several notches as he exclaimed, "Goddess Athena. Ha 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 ha. I've been looking for her for so long. I didn't expect her to be with Dustless. I didn't expect God to be so kind to me. My enemies, prey, and assets are all gathered in one place. I've changed my mind. Take me to hunt them tonight." Marquis Warban tried to hide his calmness, but Liliana could still hear the anticipation and excitement in his voice. Her lips curled into a sinister smirk. This old man was too full of himself. At the same time, he had underestimated Dustless. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was the dead of night. Marquis Warban and his party arrived at the previously agreed-upon location in advance. He looked as if he had taken a stimulant, his face flushed. However, what made him frown was that the surroundings were cold and dark. There was no one in sight. It was barely what he had imagined. "Are you sure it's here?" Marquis Warban raised his eyebrows slightly. There was doubt in his voice. "Of course." Liliana nodded affirmatively with a faint smile hanging at the corner of her mouth. "Those fellows are really stupid. They had to find a suitable place to be buried. How could they choose such a barren place? How vulgar of them to treat their own funeral." Marquis Warban sneered contemptuously. The corners of his mouth twitched, and he was about to mock Dustless and his party when the night suddenly brightened. A fierce horse made of flames descended from the sky, and the sky suddenly cleared up. "Damn it, we've been tricked." Marquis Warban, who was full of fighting spirit, spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1440. Marquis Warban was not an idiot. Instead, he was very shrewd. When the flaming horse had just descended from the sky, Liliana had taken the initiative to distance herself from him. What did this mean? Even a 3-year-old child knew what this meant. He had been abandoned. "You dare betray me?" Marquis Warban was furious. He had always been the one toying with others. He had not expected to be toyed with by Liliana. It was a great humiliation. Absolutely unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. Awoo. Marquis Warban was exceptionally calm in the face of the raging flames. He did not hesitate to use his abilities, and his appearance changed greatly in an instant. So big. Liliana, who had retreated far away, was shocked. She saw Marquis Warban transform into a huge werewolf. He was more than 30 meters tall, and he looked fearlessly at the falling horse. Awoo! 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 His roars echoed throughout the sky. Just as the flaming horse was about to swallow Marquis Warban, a change suddenly occurred. Awoo! Marquis Warban opened his mouth leisurely, his huge mouth full of fangs swallowing the flames of the white horse. After that, Marquis Warban burped as if he had not had enough. Kiki, eerie laughter came from Marquis Warban's mouth. He roared fearlessly at the sky, his voice full of destruction. "Dustless, I know you're hiding in the dark, you coward. Come out if you have the guts. Fight me to the death." Marquis Warban was like a madman who had lost control. He was in a deranged state, and his body was filled with a bone-piercing killing intent that made people want to retreat. However, the world was solemn, and no one paid him any attention. This made Marquis Warban feel even more humiliated. "Since you won't come out, I'll deal with this traitor." Marquis Warban turned his head and locked onto Liliana, his eyes cold. Every time his huge body twisted, there would be a cracking sound. The ground could not bear Marquis Warban's weight and collapsed. "Damn traitor," Marquis Oban said through gritted teeth. This stain was even worse than a slap to his face. Marquis Oban's dignity had been severely challenged and looked down upon. It's just a mere beast, yet it dares to behave so atrociously towards humans. Nowadays, public morals are truly degenerating with each passing day. A frivolous and ear-piercing voice came from afar, accompanied by a large flash of light. 1,000 meters, 100 meters. 10 meters, 1 meter. The light approached at an inconceivable speed, appearing above Marquis Warban's head in an instant. Lightspeed kick. Dustless took advantage of Marquis Warban's dazed state to kick him in the eye. Boom boom boom. The light came and went quickly, but the injuries inflicted on Marquis Warban were difficult to erase. His right eye had traces of burn marks. Caw caw caw. The powerful force caused his 30-meter-tall body to lose its balance. Marquis Warban found it difficult to maintain his balance and was about to fall to the ground. So, in the end, Marquis Warban chose to give up and return to his free body. Even though his body looked powerful, it was not easy to deal with. You think this is the end? The floating light in the sky asked coldly. Both of his arms fell at the same time, and a rain of golden bullets fell from the sky. The number of bullets left Marquis Warban completely flabbergasted. Yasukani no Magatama. A large amount of light poured down, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart was chilling. It was filled with despair and coldness. There was no suitable ability to try and stop Dustless. I want to see how powerful you are. Forced into a corner, Marquis Warban once again spread out his wolf body, wanting to rely on the hardness of his body to withstand the devastation of this move. This guy is really an idiot. He wants to rely on the hardness of his body to resist the Yasukani no Magatama. I hope he doesn't turn into a sieve. Dustless sneered. Using another ability at such a crucial moment would only increase the number of places Marquis Warban would be attacked. Pft. 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 The curtains of a bloody massacre immediately opened. As time slowly passed, Marquis Warban managed to resist many attacks with his tough body, but it was only a portion of the light bullets. There was still a large number of light bullets waiting for him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Marquis Warban was covered in blood and flesh. More and more scorched holes appeared on the surface of his body. Just from looking at the surface of Marquis Warban's skin, it seemed like he was going to be poked into a beehive. There were holes everywhere. Beep beep beep. Blood continued to drip from Marquis Warban's body. At a closer look, he was already riddled with holes. His abdomen, arms, and even his head had wounds from the attacks. You bastard! Marquis Warban raised his head and stared at Dustless. He had never seen someone so detestable, someone who wanted nothing more than to eat his flesh and drink his blood. You still haven't given up? Dustless frowned and softly said, Fine. Since you want to die so much, I'll reluctantly fulfill your wish, you defeated super scum. You think you can kill me? Marquis Warban laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Even your master, Luo Hao, couldn't do it, let alone a disciple like you. Try to kill me in your next life. Foolish thing, repent for your crimes. Gathering a large amount of high-density energy in his body, Dustless was serious this time. Gazing at Marquis Warban's miserable face, the smile on Dustless's face growing wider. He really couldn't understand how this old man could resist. A thick purplish-black python descended from the sky, its bloody mouth opened 360 degrees. Crack! Many of the servants of death were crushed by its sharp fangs, and its thick, sinuous body swayed vigorously. Its strength was so great that a light touch could send all of the servants of death flying. Athena, looking up at the domineering lady standing in the sky, Dustless found that after fusing with the Gorgon stone, she had become stronger and stronger. It was obvious that she had control of this powerful force. You're in a tight spot, Dustless. Athena teased. If you're willing to beg me, I don't mind helping you take care of this hungry wolf. Athena. Marquis Oban was stunned when he heard that. He immediately thought of a god that matched the identity of the peerless girl in front of him, and the greed in his eyes was undisguised. Dustless pursed his lips and said disdainfully, Do you think I can't take care of such a small fry? Besides, pay attention to your identity, my lovely maid. Done talking, Dustless directly shattered his own body, turning into a pile of fragments. Ha ha ha, is that guy an idiot? The crystallization of salt can only last for a short period of time, and it will not take long for it to recover. This idiot shattered his own body. Ha ha ha, he killed himself. Savage laughter rang through the sky as Marquis Oban mocked Dustless without restraint. What's going on? It's dawn. Marquis Oban, who was laughing maniacally, froze. He suddenly realized that the world in his eyes was dazzling, as if he was suddenly close to the center of the sun, extremely bright. What's there to be surprised about? A ghostly voice rang out. Looking at the source, Dustless's shattered body had recovered. Impossible, you're already dead. Marquis Oban shouted in panic, and there was a rare trace of fear in his voice. No one could accept the sudden resurrection of a dead person. Illusion, it must be an illusion. Marquis Oban denied vehemently. Idiot. Dustless did not say much. He just coldly raised his feet and aimed at Marquis Oban's head. Lightspeed kick. Under the night sky, the glittering gold-plated right leg was especially dazzling. The light, which contained 500 kilograms of force, blasted toward Oban's aged face. Crack, crack, crack. The clear sound of bones cracking could be heard, followed by a black shadow flying backward. Boom, boom, boom. Marquis Oban's appearance was particularly miserable. The bridge of his nose had sunk in, and due to the excessive heat, his cheeks had melted, leaving behind a mark of humiliation, Dustless's footprint. You've offended Marquis Oban. Liliana smiled bitterly. As a European, Marquis Oban valued etiquette. Now that Dustless had left an irremovable footprint on his face, and his opponent was Luo Hao's disciple. However, compared to Dustless, her achievements seemed to be worthless and not worth mentioning. In fact, when Dustless left Mount Lushan for Italy, Luo Hao had sent people to secretly follow him. She had been paying attention to Dustless's movements at all times. I heard that he even tamed Athena, the god of disobedience, and made her his servant. That kid is really brave. I even heard that he spanked Athena. Thinking of this, Luo Hao's face was faintly red, and her eyes were somewhat empty. No one knew what she was thinking. At night, the moonlight was like a plate, and the sky was full of bright stars. Another one. Oh, no, if it's Senpai Wanrigu, then it's two. Shizuka Kusanagi sat opposite Dustless with a serious expression. She put on an interrogative expression and said, "Our house is about to become your harem base." Erika, Athena, Liliana, Wanrigu Yoli. Including Shizuka herself, there were exactly 5 women. Dustless moved his mouth and looked at Athena and Erika, hoping that they could explain their pain. However, Erika was elegantly drinking coffee, and Athena was holding a girl's magazine and reading it seriously, as if it had nothing to do with them. That's too heartless. Dustless complained in his heart, but he still forced himself to explain. Liliana is my patient. I'm the only one who understands her condition. The others will only cause trouble. As for Wanrigu Yoli, she's my assistant. Dustless casually found a lame excuse and said without blushing or panting. Why did he shove Wanrigu Yoli over? In fact, Dustless also understood Kanejima's thoughts. He just wanted to use him, hoping that something breakthrough would happen. Isn't your assistant me? Athena asked in a slightly dazed manner. You're fired, Dustless said bluntly. Where were you when I was besieged? She even tried to poach Dustless. Seeing that Athena was not qualified, he decisively fired her. What you say doesn't count, Athena said disapprovingly. In the past, she couldn't wait to leave Dustless. Now, she had changed her mind. Although she couldn't fight with this old man under the same roof, she wouldn't be bored. It was much better than wandering around in the past. Chapter 1443. Dustless rolled his eyes when he heard this. He suddenly realized that he really had no way to dismiss Athena. When he first joined Shinja school, he did not receive any news. It was all the fault of the Baldi principal. Speaking of which, what are we eating tonight? Dustless sniffed and suddenly found an unusually pleasant aroma. His mind was also hooked, and his eyes involuntarily swept toward the kitchen. This doesn't seem to be the kind of cooking that Hikari is good at. Dustless was quite curious. Just as he was about to go to the kitchen to observe, Erika's voice stopped Dustless. Liliana is cooking tonight. Her cooking skills are very good, very good. Erika licked her thin lips, revealing an expression of great appetite. I know that, Dustless nodded in agreement. Then, he looked at Liliana, who was frowning and filled with resentment, and said calmly, but she doesn't seem to be willing. I can feel her resentment in the living room. That's not something I can control. Erika shrugged, showing an expression that said it had nothing to do with her. However, the wicked smile that could not be hidden no matter how hard she tried to hide it showed that this matter was inextricably linked to her. Don't tell me. Erika is really sinister. Wuchen vaguely understood what kind of outrageous things Erika had done. He immediately gave her a hopeless look. Don't tell me that you're threatening Liliana with romance novels again. Dustless's expression was strange, and he did not know whether to laugh or cry. It's fine as long as you don't make a fire. If you tear down the house, Hikari will definitely come after me again. Looking at the smiling Hikari Kusanagi, she seemed to be amused by Erika's actions. There was a satisfied smile on her face that had not been there before. Kusanagi Kudo, I took care of your sister very happily. You can rest in peace in the netherworld. Dustless stretched and closed his eyes. He was really tired after the battle with Marquis Warban. At the same time, inside an abandoned warehouse somewhere in Europe, the gloomy and oppressive environment made people despair. Living things were forbidden, and only the squeals of rats could be heard. Occasionally, a dark shadow would pass by, adding to the fear. Salvatore Anthony, the pale old man with oily eyes, said in a low voice, I didn't expect you to keep the appointment. Looking at Salvatore Toni, who was fully armed, he continued, but you may be disappointed. I'm not here to fight with you this time. Uncle Warban. You're not looking for a fight. Aren't you looking for me for revenge? That was really disappointing. After all, I've snatched your prey. Salvatore Anthony was quite surprised. There was a slight fluctuation in his tone. He immediately looked at the looming footprints on his face. It seems that you have suffered a great loss when you went to Japan to deal with the God Slayer. Thick killing intent flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes, but he suppressed his rage and hoarsely said, I will definitely settle this score with that guy called Dustless and Luo Hao. Settle this score? Salvatore Anthony curled his lips and said disdainfully, I heard that Dustless is Luo Hao's apprentice. You can't even beat her apprentice. Do you think you have a chance of winning with Luo Hao? Of course not. Without even thinking about it, Marquis Warban admitted frankly and replied, that Dustless is very strong. I even suspect that he is stronger than Luo Hao. If Dustless were here to hear this, he would definitely give a thumbs up and say, you have good taste. Stronger than Luo Hao. Hearing this, Salvatore Anthony's eyes flashed with surprise. Luo Hao was a famous Valkyrie, and Dustless was just her apprentice. Moreover, Dustless had been a god slayer for less than a month. It sounded like a fantasy that he was stronger than a god slayer who had been around for more than 200 years. This is an undeniable fact. Despite his reluctance, Marquis Warban had to admit that he was ambushed. However, in this world, there was only victory and defeat. Who cared about the process? And the most tragic thing was that Dustless had a super follower like Athena. Therefore, Marquis Warban was destined to end up in a miserable defeat. That's really exciting. Salvatore Anthony's eyes flashed with a fiery light. He could not wait to grow wings and fly to Japan to fight with Dustless. He took the bait. Marquis Warban laughed secretly. Salvatore Anthony was not interested in anything, but when it came to talking about a battle, he would pay more attention. By the way, why did you ask to meet me in private? Salvatore Anthony frowned and asked, Don't tell me you want to work with me to find trouble with Dustless. Why can't I? Seeing that Salvatore Anthony had seen through his intentions, Marquis Warban admitted, Dustless is very strong, and he has a god follower, Athena, who is extremely powerful. In addition, he has a master, Luo Hao. Who can defeat such a person in a one-on-one fight? Only if we form an alliance can we have a chance of winning. Find a god's follower. Salvatore Anthony widened his eyes and asked in disbelief. The gods were extremely arrogant. They would not bow down to anyone, and the god slayers were no exception. Before the god slayers killed the gods, they were just ordinary humans. Chapter 1444. Dustless naturally did not know about the premeditated plan of Warban, the Marquis, and Salvatore Tony. Of course, if he knew, he would not care. Anyway, life was boring enough, and it would not be a bad thing if someone came to provoke him. Do you want to join forces with me? Salvatore Anthony asked seriously, grasping the key point. Of course. Marquis Warban nodded and said, He is too strong. I can't deal with him alone, and I don't think you can either. Don't compare me to you. Salvatore Tony said coldly, and at the same time, he was also very interested in Marquis Warban. In any case, one thing was undeniable. Dustless seemed to be very strong. If it was as Marquis Warban said, the situation was very unfavorable for them. Dustless, Luo Hao, a super god, and two powerful knights, such a combination was invincible. Then I will join forces with you. Salvatore Tony finally gritted his teeth and said. He was very interested in Dustless. Time flew by, and the next morning, a large group of people set off from Shizuka Kusunagi's house. Athena was Dustless's assistant, so naturally, she was always by his side. As knights, Liliana and Erika, Shizuka Kusanagi and Wanriga Yoli were also always by his side. They are going to cut me into pieces. Dustless was speechless and smiled bitterly. He found that everyone was looking at him with envy, jealousy, and hatred, as if he was a thorn in their side. Ahem. Athena, pay attention to your image. Dustless coughed dryly. Because he had given the Gorgon stone to Athena, she had always maintained the appearance of 18 or 19, and was no longer the 12 or 13-year-old child she used to be. She was very close to Dustless, and her body exuded a very strong fragrance, tempting Dustless's nerves. Athena herself was very cold, and gave people the feeling that they wanted to conquer her. What's the matter? Athena turned her head and looked at Dustless. She did not hide her doubts. I also want to ask you, where did you come from? Athena raised her head and revealed a thoughtful expression. Her adorable look was quite cute. Athena, who was known as the goddess of wisdom, had a very different look when she revealed this expression. It had a different style. Can you stay away from me? I might be swallowed alive by Erika and Liliana. Dustless leaned close to Athena's ear and said gloomily. His eyes fell on the heads of Liliana and Erika, and his eyes were filled with resentment. No matter when a woman saw the man she liked talking and laughing with another woman, she would always be dissatisfied. Sigh, seeing this, Athena did not restrain herself. Instead, she deliberately pulled Dustless closer and revealed a naughty smile. She whispered, I suddenly found a good way to defeat you. Defeat me? Dustless couldn't help but laugh. His eyes were full of disdain as he said disdainfully, with your level, it's too embarrassing for you to deal with me at my peak. Is that so? Athena turned a deaf ear to Dustless's arrogance and responded with a chuckle as if it didn't exist. At this moment, Athena suddenly stood in front of Dustless and licked her red rose lips. The sly smile on Athena's face deepened. What do you want? Erica and Liliana were on guard at the same time. When Athena wasn't around, it didn't matter if they had internal strife. But when Athena was an unprecedented enemy, Erica and Liliana had to work together to deal with her. Oh, Athena looked at Dustless shyly with a shy expression. Her red face revealed 2 drunken blushes. Not only that, Athena's emotions were mixed with a trace of resentment, reluctance, and complicated emotions. Is there something wrong with this woman's head? Why is she showing such an expression? She looks like a resentful woman. I didn't do anything wrong to her. Dustless complained. Athena's expression gave him the illusion that he had mercilessly had sex with her and then abandoned her in the end. Athena, what exactly are you? Wu Chen's words stopped abruptly. Suddenly, he felt a chill on his neck. He turned his head and saw 2 ferocious eyes that were more ferocious than those of wild wolves. They were glaring at him furiously. It was Erica and Liliana. Are you not going to take responsibility for what you did to someone else? Erica asked with her beautiful eyes spitting fire. Her starry eyes were filled with hatred. She said, abandon Athena. Even if you are the king, I won't let you off. Erica slashed her sword. Fortunately, Dustless had elementization. Otherwise, he might really end up with his head separated from his body. Me too. Then, Liliana also stabbed her sword at Dustless's throat without holding back. But fortunately, the elementization ability still worked, helping Dustless easily dodge this terrifying sword attack. Stop right there. Don't be fooled by him. Dustless's mouth twitched. He finally understood what Athena's words meant. What the F***ck? What the F***ck? She was using her chastity to trick Dustless. Erica and Liliana, who were full of righteousness, would certainly not let him off. Explain it to me clearly, Dustless said gloomily, wishing he could swallow Athena alive. Athena was even more embarrassed. She blushed and said, how can that kind of thing be explained clearly? The process is not important, but your long-cherished wish of me giving birth to your child is real. Fine, I'll make your act real when we get back to school and make your dream come true, Athena. Dustless cursed while dodging the attacks of the 2 women. Chapter 1445. Athena smiled faintly as she observed Dustless, who was besieged by Erica and Liliana. She had a cunning look of excitement on her face, just like a child's. Sure enough, no matter who he was, he had a weakness that no one knew about. This guy is very protective. Athena's eyes flashed as she watched Dustless, who was being chased by the 2 women and only cared about explaining himself without fighting back. She finally felt a sense of belonging to Dustless. It could be seen that Dustless was an extremely protective person. Only a protective person would value the people around him and not allow anything to happen to them. Athena admired Dustless's protective personality. If you don't leave now, you'll be late. Otherwise, you'll deduct your salary. Athena ignored the playful crowd and left Dustless with a beautiful back view. Glancing at Athena, who was skipping away, Dustless felt like swallowing her alive. You're not the one who was framed. Not only did you not help me, but you're also that damned murderer. At the same time, in another direction. Not long after Marquis Oben left Japan, he made a comeback. Of course, this time, he brought with him a powerhouse who was strong enough to ride side by side with him. The other Godslayer, Salvatore Anthony. According to the previously agreed plan, the 2 of them would work together to deal with Dustless. Marquis Oben also promised that this time, he would definitely defeat Dustless and wash away the humiliation. That's right. As soon as they walked out of the airport, Marquis Oben said solemnly, I still need to prepare some tools. You go deal with Dustless first. Prepare things. What a coincidence. Salvatore Anthony said doubtfully. He was still wary of Marquis Oben. This old man was mysterious and sinister, and his personality was as cunning as a wolf. Are you afraid of Dustless? Marquis Oben took the opportunity to mock him. Scared? Upon hearing that, Salvatore Tony curled his lips and said domineeringly, maybe I'm not as strong as him, but the word fear has never been in my dictionary. Even if you didn't say it, I'd still want to meet him personally. Dustless is a teacher of Qingja Academy, right? I'll go first. Salvatore Tony carried the wrapped sword and left. He was full of fighting spirit towards Dustless, especially the mocking tone of Marquis Oben, which made him quite unhappy. Although he had only been a godslayer for a few years and might not be very strong, he was definitely not weaker than someone who had just become a godslayer. Young people are really gullible. Marquis Warban couldn't help but laugh. Looking at Salvatore Tony's disappearing figure, his hidden cunning smile was completely exposed. Idiot, Dustless's strength is unfathomable. If you go, you'll end up like me. Touching the footprint scar on his face, Marquis Oben, who was already terrifying, became even scarier. Besides, putting aside Dustless's strength, do you still remember that Dustless has the goddess of battle, Athena, by his side? Therefore, Marquis Oben felt that he had no chance of winning from the very beginning. Even if he and Salvatore Tony put aside their previous enmity and joined forces, he didn't think that he had a chance of winning against Dustless. Therefore, he deliberately found an excuse to trick Salvatore Tony into dealing with Dustless and Athena, hoping to buy him some time. Marquis Oben said that he had found a way to defeat Dustless, and that he didn't have the ability to fight back. Hee hee. Salvatore Tony, don't die before I complete my plan. Marquis Oben laughed sinisterly, revealing his dazzling white teeth. This alliance was actually just Marquis Oben, who was helpless, using Salvatore Tony. Chapter 1446. Marquis Woben was hundreds of years old. Compared to him, a novice godslayer like Salvatore Tony was always simpler. In his world, there was only fighting, and he was not good at scheming. Idiot, Dustless has such a strong faction. Even if we join forces, we will only be begging for trouble. It's fine if we fail once, but I don't want to fail twice in a row at the hands of one person. Marquis Woben's expression was cold, and his whole body exuded a resolute temperament. He then followed Salvatore Tony without turning his head, treating this guy as a rash vanguard. He just had to secretly carry out the plan behind his back. Qingja Academy's healthcare room. Miss Athena, although I'm very good at this, I absolutely can't tolerate others slandering me for no reason. The healthcare room, oh, perhaps it could no longer be called a healthcare room. The large room was filled with a transparent enchantment, and Dustless and Athena were trapped in it. Slandering me. Athena showed a blank expression and said innocently, I'm not that kind of person. Have you been beaten silly by Erica and Liliana? Don't play dumb with me. Wu Chen snorted rudely and said loudly, when did I ask you to give birth to a child? You falsely accused me and caused me to be hunted down by Erica and Liliana. Shouldn't you take responsibility? After saying that, Dustless had an unlucky expression on his face, and Athena's expression had nothing to do with him. So it's because of this. Athena showed an enlightened expression, and then nodded indifferently. Damn, can you not be so natural? Dustless complained in his heart. Athena had tricked him, but she did not show any signs of awakening. Instead, she looked frivolous and indifferent. So much so that Wu Chen really had the thought of doing him. Do you dare to deny that you have no thoughts about me? Athena asked calmly as she stretched lazily. Men were possessive of beautiful women, and 99% of men were like this. Besides, Athena was confident in her appearance, and her identity as a god could turn men into beasts. I did have an idea, but I didn't do anything. Dustless was extremely speechless. What kind of bullshit logic was this? Could it be that when others fantasized about you, it was the same as forcing you to have children? Wasn't this a little too shameless? The two of you are in a good mood. You even have the time to flirt now. Dustless and Athena were stunned. They looked at the source of the voice and saw a handsome young man standing outside the barrier. Salvatore Anthony? Dustless asked in confusion. He was quite surprised. He had no dealings with this fellow, and neither of them knew each other. However, Salvatore Tony carried a wrapped sword on his shoulder, so he thought he was up to no good. Dustless had long known that this fellow was belligerent, but he did not expect him to come knocking on his door just a few days after he became a godslayer. He was especially annoyed that someone had taken the initiative to barricade his house. Do you know me? When Salvatore Tony heard this, he immediately became smug. He said to himself with a smile of exultation, could it be that my reputation has spread to a place like Japan? However, after a few seconds of narcissism, he was annoyed by Dustless and Athena. Who knows a little pawn like you? If you don't want to die, get away from me. Dustless and Athena jumped into the same trench from opposite sides. Both of them said unkindly to expel Salvatore Tony. Athena and Dustless had a personal grudge, and it was not up to an outsider to intervene. Especially a godslayer who had inexplicably invaded other people's territory. What was he trying to do? This was a blatant provocation. You too. Salvatore Tony's smiling face froze. It was the first time in his life that someone had asked him to get away. Are you not convinced? Sensing the fleeting murderous intent in Salvatore Tony's eyes, Athena said disdainfully, what's so special about a godslayer? In fact, it's just a so-so. Dustless did not say anything. Although Athena's tone was arrogant, it was undeniable that as a Trinity god who had regained all her strength, she had the right to look down on others. These two are really domineering. They don't take me seriously at all. Salvatore Tony had an unlucky look on his face. He realized that he had come at the wrong time. He had become Dustless and Athena's punching bag. Why are you here? You don't know anyone here, and no one welcomes you. I have a personal matter to settle now. You can go back now. Glancing at Salvatore Tony, Dustless did not hesitate to expel him. He was framed by Athena for no reason, and this debt must be settled. Sorry, it's impossible for me to go back because I also have a personal matter to settle. Salvatore Tony smiled brightly, but the temperature around him dropped to freezing point. Sure enough, this guy is here to die. Dustless and Athena said at the same time, mocking Salvatore Tony for overestimating himself. This guy was obviously here to die. The corner of Salvatore Tony's mouth twitched violently. At first, he thought that it was pure nonsense for a godslayer and a disobedient god to be together. Now, it seemed that it was not the case. There was a reason for it. At the very least, her ability to look down on others was outstanding. I am here to challenge the two of you. Salvatore Tony's patience was exhausted. He looked at Athena with glowing eyes. Of course, I don't care if someone gives away their power for free. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.